In science and technology portion, so there are broad themes that we have already seen during prelims time, that you have space technology, you have defense technology, you have energy technology, you have nuclear technology, IT and computers, IPR, nanotechnology. So in all of these broad themes, we'll try to try to look at some of the important developments that have taken place and from where questions could be framed. And our focus would also be on solving some of the PYQs. And while doing that, you will get a broader perspective that what topics or what themes are important in a particular sub theme. Let's say in space, what would be important for this year? In nuclear technology, what could be important this year? In energy technology, what could be important this year? Only if you are done with PYQs, and if you have solved them, probably sometimes the questions, the theme of the question could be again repeated also. So we will look from that perspective also. So the first theme that we'll take is space technology. I would request some of you to switch on your camera so that at least we have an idea that we are in a classroom. These classes were supposed to be offline, but because of the incident, we are taking it all online. So in space technology, one very broad question that has been asked already by UPSC, that we'll see, and with that we'll try to take up other things also. But before we get into that particular question, some interesting developments in space technology is in news, especially with respect to Sunita Williams. Are you all aware about Sunita Williams? CA? What is the issue associated with her space travel? So, linked to that, there are many important things that from which a question could be made. So, Sunita Williams, what are you aware about Sunita Williams as of now? Omkar, Saurav, no idea.
So she's still stuck at the ISS, I guess. They are unable to bring her back.
She is not able to get back from International Space Station. So that is one particular issue, that she was supposed to return in 8 days, but now the timeline has shifted, and probably it will take a year or less than a year. It is expected that by February 2025 she will be coming back to Earth. But there are associated issues with this. First associated issue is the health issues that humans face when they are in space. Now, why health issues are important when we are in space? Because we ourselves have are planning for which mission? इसरो का भी मार्की मिशन एक मिशन है जो कि गगनयान मिशन है. अब गगनयान मिशन में भी एस्ट्रोनॉट्स को ही भेजना है, स्पेस में ही भेजना है, and we have to bring them back. So if the issues that what Sunita Williams is undergoing through, that is a big eye opener for India also, or for ISRO also. So from that perspective, we should understand that what is the condition of Sunita Williams health wise. So you would have heard about, she is suffering from muscle dystrophy. तो जो रिलेटेड इश्यूज हैं वो भी कि वहाँ पे मसल डिस्ट्रोफी होती है. सो there would be many linked issues. For example, the radiation level in space is high. So astronauts, they develop some kind of sickness, radiation sickness in space. So they vomit quite frequently. The digestion gets disturbed because of higher level of radiation. Then their muscles starts to atrophy. Muscle atrophy means our muscles, major composition of our muscles are proteins, and muscle composition is such so as to support our body weight, but body weight in space will be less. Why? Because there will be microgravity. So in microgravity condition, that is in fractional gravity condition, our weight will be less. So our body doesn't need to have such kind of muscle mass. So body has a natural tendency to break down the proteins that is present in the muscle. So it leads to loss of muscles because of less weight in space. Bone density will also start to decrease because our bone is also supporting our weight. So there is loss of bone density, there is a demineralization of bones. So these are the some issues that C is facing. Also, in microgravity condition or in lesser gravity condition, water, the fluid balance in the system in our body is completely disturbed. And it is said that the body has the tendency to collect all this fluid in the upper part of the body, or particularly in the face. So we see a syndrome which is called as the puffy face syndrome. And it has also been pointed out that her eyes or her vision is also getting blurry because the liquid is getting filled in her eyes. So space related such syndromes you are seeing. So if we are planning for Gaganyaan mission, don't you think we'll have to take care of these things? That these things can happen, that an astronaut can get stuck in space and they will start experiencing these situations. So you'll have to be prepared for that. And to just point you out that Artemis mission is planned. आर्टेमिस मिशन प्रीलिम्स के टाइम भी पढ़ा था. आर्टेमिस 1 भेज चुके हैं. आर्टेमिस 2 2024 में प्लान्ड है. आर्टेमिस 3 जो है that will be manned, but it will also involve landing on moon. Do you think those programs will get affected by this? These are human missions only. Artemis 2 is supposed to be a human mission. It will be a crewed mission in which astronauts will be sent in space. They will circle moon and then they will be brought back. नासा का ये प्रॉब्लम अभी फंस गया है. तो आपको लगता है कि आर्टेमिस अभी 24 वाला जो प्लान था वो भेजेंगे? अभी पहले इसको रिजॉल्व करेंगे. तो जो भी आपके ह्यूमन मिशंस हैं, इट इज लाइक एन आई ओपनर फॉर ऑल द ह्यूमन मिशंस, or even of NASA, even of India. And the associated issue also is that we Sunita Williams was sent using Boeing's Starliner project. इसका मतलब आपने नासा ने एक प्राइवेट कंपनी पे रिलाई किया एस्ट्रोनॉट को स्पेस में भेजने के लिए. It means the privatization of space, which is a overwhelming concept that you would see even in the space sector of India, that we want to push for privatization of space sector. Is that a theme nowadays in space that we had seen in here in India also? Now that has started raising questions, or people have started raising questions, that Boeing or any private company, they are profit oriented. They might have compromised with the entire project itself, and in some ways, NASA is expecting is saying that the return might be impossible also. Her future is uncertain. So privatization of space sector then involves many risks. So this particular incident of Sunita Williams getting stuck in International Space Station raises so many issues, so many underlying issues. So privatization of space will be questioned. Health of astronauts in space will be questioned. Our Gaganyaan mission, what will happen to that, or do we need to make changes in that? That will be questioned. So based on those things, we'll try to build up our understanding. We already know most of the things, but we'll just try to put a loop around all of this thing. So with that context, let's begin with space technology. See what type of questions they have already asked. So let me just give you a trend so that you can think of that what could be the possibility of the questions that could be asked. So a few years back, they have asked a very broad question on describe the achievements of India in space science and technology. So describe achievements of India. This is a question that we'll try to answer. Describe achievements of India in space science and tech. Another part of this question was how is it helping in socioeconomic development of India. So this is a very broad theme based question which can be still relevant. So we'll try to look at this particular question because it will touch so many themes even in space sector itself. Then they have asked some narrow questions like they have asked what is India's plan for a space station. To a certain extent, you cannot say it is a narrow question. It has said what is India's plan to have its own space station and how will it benefit its future programs. So they have already asked a question on space station. So you can still expect a question on space station. Next question that they have asked is that uh, India has been successful in sending unmanned missions. This question, I guess, we had discussed. Saurav, were you in my class? Were you in some of the batches that I took science and technology? No. Okay. So we'll look at that question. So the question was that this is all of these are UPSC questions that India has been successful in sending unmanned missions. India has been successful in unmanned missions such as Mangalyaan and Chandrayaan. Then the next part of the question says that, however, India has not ventured into manned missions. What are the obstacles? Technological and logistical obstacles. This is a question they have asked few years back, but this is a question which is still relevant because in the context of the Gaganyaan mission and because of this particular incident of Sunita Williams and Wilmore being caught up in International Space Station. So they've asked question on human missions, what are the obstacles, but they haven't asked what could be the benefits. So in manned mission, if we are sending manned mission, we should also look at from the different perspective that yes, we should know the obstacles, but we should also know the benefits of manned mission. That could be a potential area of question making. And since they have already asked on space station, they can again ask on space station or the challenges associated with space station, because Sunita Williams has been caught up in International Space Station only. So there could be a specific question like what are health related concerns in a space station, what are the challenges in a space station. And then there could be other side of the story, that why does India want to have a space station, what could be the potential benefits out of space station. So benefits of a space station and benefits of the manned mission are very, very similar. That we'll discuss broadly. So you'll get the idea that benefit of manned mission will be same as the benefit of space station. Some more benefits could accrue. So we'll look at these three broad questions. Then they haven't asked, or another question they have asked on specific mission also, like Juno mission they have asked, but they had asked Juno mission not in paper 3, but they had asked in paper 1, that how do you think Juno mission helps to understand the origin and evolution of Earth itself? जूनो मिशन अर्थ के लिए तो ऑब्वियसली नहीं है, जूनो मिशन जुपिटर के लिए था, जुपिटर के ओरिजिन और एवोल्यूशन के लिए वो मिशन था, बट यूपीएससी ने उसका ट्विस्ट करके ऑब्जेक्टिव और आपसे पूछ रहे हैं। तो इसका मतलब वो ये है कि कोई मिशन उस साल जब न्यूज़ में रहता है तो उसके रिलेटेड एनालिटिकल क्वेश्चंस भी फ्रेम हो सकते हैं. So Juno mission was in news, so they framed a question like that. Last year you have seen the question on Chandrayaan 3. You have seen a question on Chandrayaan 3, and before that year you have seen a question on James Webb Telescope, comparing it with its predecessors. So these would be very specific questions which would be specific to that particular year. You cannot expect them to get repeated. Let's say again they asking James Webb Telescope, or again they asking Chandrayaan 3 would be highly unexpected. But these, at least these broad theme type of question in some other language, they could still be relevant for our exam perspective. And then there would be other broad themes in space that could be relevant. For example, privatization. So privatization is a theme which India is moving towards. So privatization of space would be an important topic that we'll cover. Another important concern is also with respect to debris, and this issue was also raised in Sunita Williams case only. One of the reason for she getting stuck was there was a fear that her starliner, Boeing starliner, would be hit by space debris. So if you're sending a manned mission, now it has become a realistic threat that space debris could also be a very, very big challenge. So space debris as a theme is also important for your mains exam. So what is space debris? What are different types of space debris? Then what are the challenges or issues associated with say, space debris? What are different efforts for space debris? what is Indian effort for space debris, those things could also become very, very relevant. And some specific missions that we can look into, like Change 6, the Chinese mission. So I guess you are having the Compass magazine, Compass of Science and Tech. So in that, those missions are covered, but if we get time, we will refresh all those missions also. Okay. So what we are going to do here is, let's begin with this part of the space, or this particular question of space science and technology. So describe achievements of India in space science and technology. How is it helping in socio-economic development of India? So you have read about space in your prelims paper, but how do you think you can bring all those points in this particular question? So in your answers you would be following some kind of approach. Let's say your introduction, and then your next subheading. The making subheading here would be easier: achievements, and how is it contributing, or contribution in socio-economic development. And we'll see what more could be written, or this is it. So describe achievements of India in space science and technology. How is it helping in socio-economic development of India? So there are at least two parts here. You have to mention the achievements, and you have to mention the socio-economic development, how it is helping in socio-economic development. So how will you introduce this question, this answer? Yeah, how do you think we can introduce here? Recent successful missions. So you want to go by some context? Yes, that can be done. Okay, which mission do you want to point? आदित्य यूज कर सकते हैं, ठीक है, आदित्य से भी शुरू कर सकते हैं. Increase share in GDP since 1990s. Yes, Sashank, yes, we can do that, but for that you would need to have specific data. So if you can find out the specific data, then it can become a very good introduction also, that how much is the contribution of space in the overall GDP also. One simple way of beginning your answer would always to go by the historical context, or when was ISRO formed, or who was father of India's space program. Now, Vikram Sarabhai was father of space program. When was ISRO formed? 1960s, 1969. So from that formation, or the first type of satellite that we sent, the first satellite that India sent was Aryabhatta. And from the time of Aryabhatta, that was sent in 1975, now we are sending some of the heaviest satellite, and we are undertaking some of the most complex missions also, so which has fulfilled the dreams of our space technology, or space science and technology forefathers, let's say Vikram Sarabhai. No, so something like that. So giving a start, and where we are in brief, to give a timeline or a flow to how things have evolved. So you can begin by a simple introduction, historical introduction, or you can begin by something which is in real, or which is in present context. For example, that India recently has sent the Aditya L1 mission, and India also sent Chandrayaan 3 mission. India became the fourth country to do soft landing on moon, and we have done soft landing on the south side of the moon. That is a difficult side to land. So starting from a position where we were just sending sounding rockets to place where we are even soft landing on different celestial body, you can point out the, in brief, very brief in intro. So there could be multiple ways of starting your answer in such cases. So it is always better to remember the fathers of any space, fathers of program. लेट्स से न्यूक्लियर साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी का क्वेश्चन है, तो हमेशा आप होमी जे बाबा का नाम मेंशन कर सकते हो, that Homi J. Baba is considered as the father of India's nuclear program. So remember the key figures in that particular field. Let's say nanotechnology comes, then you can always say that forefather or the father of nanotechnology was Richard Feynman. The ideas and the science of nanotechnology has come from the Richard Feynman. So if you remember those names, when you start your answers with such specific names, it gives a good impression that he knows the origin also, and he knows the key stakeholders or key person involved in this particular technology. So you can do that also. So context can be a good way, or going for history, that would also be a good way of starting your answer. Now coming to achievement, since they have specifically pointed out achievements, and in next part you have to write how it is helping in socio-economic development of India. If you broadly look at the question, there are two parts. One is achievement, other is socio-economic development. Which do you think is analytical or more analytical in nature compared to other? So this would be the part which is more analytical, socio-economic development. This you could say that it is more factual in nature. So your weightage of answer or proportion allocation should technically be more for this than compared for this. Because even if you write very good points here, this is still a factual section. And even though your points could be like very nuanced, very unique, still you might not be able to fetch marks. Because if an examiner has to judge you, he will not be able to judge you more from this portion but from this portion. कि ये सोचता कैसे है, इसके हिसाब से डेवलपमेंट क्या है, किस चीज़ पे फोकस करता है, कैसे प्रायोरिटाइज करा है इसने पॉइंट्स को, उसके बेसिस पे आपकी पर्सनालिटी के बारे में बोला जा सकता है. So this is a particular section which should be a good section for you, which will be a scoring section for you. So this is a section where we should allocate a little more space. It means that this portion should be shorter but should not get compromised. If it means that it should not get compromised, it means that you'll have to play with keywords here. You cannot write very elaborate statements when you have to mention achievements, because achievements of ISRO itself are very very high, or over the decades they have achieved a lot many things. But what are the key things that you should not miss? That is what is critical here. तो आपको क्या लगता है, क्या ऐसे अचीवमेंट्स हैं जो आपको मिस नहीं करने चाहिए? मतलब इसरो के अचीवमेंट्स स्पेस टेक्नोलॉजी में मिस नहीं करनी चाहिए. अच्छा, वन मोर थिंग व्हाट आई फाउंड अ सिली मिस्टेक व्हिच मोस्ट ऑफ द एस्पिरेंट्स, not most but some, have done while writing answers is that, sorry, they missed out this word. While reading in hurry, they read it as describe achievements of India in science and technology, how it is helping in socio-economic development of India. The whole theme of the question would change if you miss out the word space. So while you're reading question also, be very very mindful that you're reading question rightly, and all the keyword of the question should be underlined in your paper so that you are not missing that out, because whole question theme can change, and then what marks you could have got you will obviously not get here, because then it would become a very very broad topic. So do not miss out such small keywords. Yes. So can you tell me what are the achievements that you think we should not miss while we are writing this answer? कि इसरो के क्या ऐसे अचीवमेंट्स हैं जो आपको लिखने ही लिखने हैं, जो आप मिस नहीं कर सकते? हाँ, PSLV. When you are writing PSLV, yes, good Saurabh. But what is unique about PSLV? At least one point. For the first time, we used liquid engine in PSLV. So if you remember Dr. Nambi Narayan, his contribution was development of the Vikas engine, that is the liquid engine. So before that we were using SLV, ASLV, and then we developed liquid engine. So we developed PSLV. So in PSLV, the first big achievement would be the liquid engine. Then in, if you have started with, let's say, launch vehicle, then you should mention also about cryogenic, कि GSLV में cryogenic use करा है और वो हमने खुद से डेवलप करा है, इंडिजिनसली डेवलप करा है. We did not get help from outside. No. And also you can mention that now even private players like Skyroot has also developed India's first private cryogenic engine. Will that also not be an achievement? Is it saying only mention the achievement of ISRO? So now same question, the context would be a little different because the private sectors have started pitching in and started contributing. Agnikul ne 3D printed rocket ही बना दिया, 3D printed engine बना दिया. That itself would be an achievement. Okay, so from launch vehicle perspective, you can mention. So in launch vehicle, you can mention we started with SLV, then we came up with ASLV, then we came up with PSLV, PSLV first liquid engine, then we came up with GSLV, first time cryogenic engine. Parallelly, we are developing SSLV that you have mentioned, small satellite launch vehicle, which is in presently in news, and ISRO is also trying to develop reusable launch vehicle. ये भी आपने न्यूज़ में सुना होगा. तो आप शॉर्ट में भी ऐसे फ्लो डायग्राम यूज़ करके मेंशन कर सकते हो कि पहले एसएलवी आया, फिर एएसएलवी आया, फिर पीएसएलवी आया, पीएसएलवी में पहली बार लिक्विड इंजन यूज़ करा, फिर जीएसएलवी आया, इसमें पहली बार लिक्विड इंजन, और इसमें पहली बार हमने क्रायोजेनिक इंजन यूज़ किया. और पैरेलली हम ये डेवलपमेंट देख रहे हैं कि हमने एसएसएलवी भी डेवलप करा है. दिस इज टू cater to small satellite launch. I'm writing short forms, you shouldn't be doing that. And ISRO is also developing reusable launch vehicle टेक्नोलॉजी डेमोन्स्ट्रेटर, RLV-TD भी न्यूज़ में. तो आपने एक ही लाइन यूज़ करके या दो लाइन यूज़ करके ये एक क्रोनोलॉजी में आपने डेवलपमेंट्स दिखा दिए, और ये भी अचीवमेंट्स ही हैं कि we subsequently we have been able to develop, and we have the most powerful rocket also, and we have some rocket to send the small satellites, and we are also trying to develop reusable launch vehicle, something like Falcon. So this part should not be missed. Launch vehicle में अच्छा achievement है इसरो का. So this is a part which you should not be missing. What else do you think you should not be missing while mentioning the achievements? Satellites. We were dependent on sending satellites on others, and we were sending small satellites previously in 1970s and 80s. So we began with Aryabhatta, but then we started sending INSAT. INSAT is not the heaviest telecommunication satellite, but GSAT is the heaviest telecommunication satellite. And we used to send GSAT not using our launch vehicle because they were not capable, because PSLV was not capable to send GSAT. So we were using ESA's, European Space Agency's Ariane to send it. Now we are capable to even send this using GSLV. So now we have developed some of the heaviest satellites, also some of the best telecommunication satellites also. So this itself has been a big achievement for us. And obviously then you can mention the different missions that we have sent. So the missions already sent and the missions we are planning to send. So missions already sent, you can point out Mangalyaan mission. So Mangalyaan mission, it was sent in 2014, and if you remember, India had become the first country to reach Mars, orbit of Mars in first attempt. So that was a big achievement for India. And then you can mention Chandrayans also, but Chandrayans do not go for describing all the Chandrayans, Chandrayaan 1, 2, 3. Again, you can use a similar diagram, Chandrayaan 1, Chandrayaan 2, Chandrayaan 3, and in Chandrayaan 3, you can say that we are the fourth country only to do soft landing on moon. So you can mention about Aditya mission also, that we are one of the first countries to have a solar observatory, and that too at the Lagrange point L1. So you're showing your technical knowledge also, and you're mentioning about some of the missions also, and then you can point out the future missions also. जैसे कि आप गगनयान बता सकते हो, शुक्रयान बता सकते हो, इंडिया का ये भी प्लान है कि इंडिया अपना स्पेस स्टेशन बनाएगा. That itself would also be a big achievement. So just having a plan also would be a good way to go ahead. So you can mention these marquee missions, and then you can address this part of the question. So achievements you can do so by breaking down in this way. Navik भी mention कर सकते हैं आप, because India has developed its indigenous navigation system, that is Navik, and because of Navik we are also having what is called as Gagan. Gagan क्या होता है Gagan?
सर एयरपोर्ट अथॉरिटी ऑफ इंडिया एंड इसरो के साथ मिलके इन्होंने बनाया था
कोलैबोरेट
फॉर।
करा है, तो इसमें
यस
क्या ऑब्जेक्टिव है?
सर, सर शायद जीआईएस का है, ज्योग्राफिकल आइडेंटिफिकेशन वाला।
What is the full form of this?
सर, सर समथिंग एडेड जियो एडेड नेविगेशन।
यस, इसमें दो चीज आपको याद रखने. एक है ये जो जी है वो जीपीएस के लिए, और ये वाला जी है जियो के लिए. जीपीएस एडेड, जियो ऑगमेंटेड. जीपीएस जो सिस्टम है सैटेलाइट नेविगेशन सिस्टम है, और जियो ऑगमेंटेड मतलब ग्राउंड बेस्ड रडार्स भी होंगे जो एयरपोर्ट अथॉरिटी यूज करती है. तो ये दोनों सिग्नल को कोलेट किया जाएगा, और उससे हम बेटर इमेजरी या बेटर आइडेंटिफिकेशन ऑफ द लोकेशन ऑफ एयरक्राफ्ट्स कैन बी डन. So that is the idea.
ओके।
So
यस
navigation improve होगी हमारी एयरपोर्ट्स के लिए, क्योंकि जीपीएस में एक इशू ये है कि उसकी एक्यूरेसी सिविलियन यूज के लिए जो एक्यूरेसी है दैट इज नॉट वेरी हाई. 10 मीटर की एक्यूरेसी है, 7 to 10 मीटर्स एक्यूरेसी होती है, एंड 90% ऑफ द टाइम्स इट मीन्स ये पिन पॉइंटेड एक्यूरेसी नहीं देता है जीपीएस का लोकेशन. जैसे आपने देखा होगा ओला में भी, स्विगी में भी, कि पिन पॉइंटेड आपके घर के एड्रेस पे नहीं पहुंचते, आसपास पहुंचते हैं, because 10 meter would be 30 meter, 30 foot radius. So they would reach to that particular point, but they cannot identify specifically where you are. So it means GPS has a limitation, the civilian one, not the military grade. जीपीएस में या हमारे नाविक में दो सर्विसेज मिलती हैं, एक है नॉर्मल सर्विसेज, एक होता है मिलिट्री सर्विसेज या सिविलियन पर्पसेस एंड फॉर मिलिट्री पर्पसेस. सो फॉर मिलिट्री पर्पसेस द एक्यूरेसी कुड बी हाई, but they will not provide military services for civilian navigation for civil aircrafts. So we are augmenting that with ground based radars. रडार्स कैसे काम करते हैं ये हम लोगों ने प्रीलिम्स में भी देखा था, और रडार्स पे क्वेश्चन भी पूछा है इस बार यूपीएससी ने प्रीलिम्स में भी. तो ये दोनों सिस्टम को मर्ज करके एक सिस्टम बनता है. सो दिस you see achievements, still you can write more, still that what could be achievements of India in space itself. So but this much would be more than sufficient for this particular part. Hope you're getting this, but you have to be cautious that it should not take a lot of space, because even though you might write very good points, it is still factual in nature. So you should mentally allocate that how much space I have to give for achievement. इंट्रो 3-4 लाइन में लिख दिया तो अचीवमेंट एक पन्ने में नहीं लिखना है, क्योंकि फिर आप यदि 15 मार्कर भी है तो आपके पास 2.5 पन्ने, एक पन्ने में यही लिख दोगे तो फिर बाकी के पीछे के पोर्शंस भी हैं और ये आर्टिकल पोर्शन है, ये कॉम्प्रोमाइज हो जाएगा. So you have to allocate the space intelligently. Coming to this part, contribution in socio-economic development of India. Now, this is a part where you can highlight your knowledge, and you can highlight even your, let's say, observation power or your conceptual understanding of development itself. So how do you think we should address this part, contribution in socio-economic development part? This could be true for any technology that you take. ये क्वेश्चन ऐसे भी कर सकते हैं, how is nanotechnology helping in socio-economic development of India? How is biotechnology helping in socio-economic development of India? How is AI helping in socio-economic development of India? So every technology will have this aspect, or this utilitarian perspective would always be questioned that इतना टेक्नोलॉजी में खर्च करने का फायदा है क्या? तो टेक्नोलॉजी में खर्च कर रहे हैं तो उससे समाज को, देश को कुछ फायदा हो रहा है क्या? So that will always be the perspective in mains. That might not be the perspective in prelims. So if that is the perspective in mains, you should have a general theme in your mind that if such type of question comes, that if I am asked that how will I bring about development for my country, for my state, for my district, how should I prioritize my themes in that? डेवलपमेंट आप बहुत तरीके से कर सकते हो, तो आपको क्या प्रायोरिटाइज करना है, दैट यू हैव टू थिंक. So can you give me some ideas that what are the things that we should be prioritizing here?
सर एग्जाम्पल्स को लेके इलैबोरेट कर सकते हैं.
एग्जाम्पल्स तो होने चाहिए, ये बात तो सही है कि आपके पास एग्जाम्पल्स होने चाहिए, पर एग्जाम्पल्स का भी रेलेवेंस तब बनता है कि जब आपने पॉइंट्स बहुत पावरफुल बनाए हैं, पॉइंट्स हार्ड हिटिंग बनाए हैं, उसके बाद उसमें एग्जाम्पल्स हैं.
Yes, sir. So like we could say like geotagging of assets under the Manrega prevents.
ओके,
वो वाला.
चलो ठीक है, ये अच्छा पॉइंट है, बिकॉज मनरेगा इज अ प्रोग्राम विच अफेक्ट्स लॉट ऑफ पीपल, स्पेशली द अंडर प्रिविलेज सेक्शन ऑफ आवर सोसाइटीज. सो व्हाट is development then you're trying to say is bringing development to those who have not tasted development, or giving them the opportunity to develop. So fairly pointed out. और क्या हो सकता है, और क्या लिखना, क्या लिख सकते हैं?
Digitization of land records, like
Digitization of land records. Okay,
through.
very good. Yeah. तो
So
आप
some tech in
ओके या गुड.
so like some tech in like I think it was the Amrit filter which will be the one for water. It will provide better water facilities. So socio-economic में डाल सकते हैं, that can be
बिल्कुल
applied.
बिल्कुल, यस यू कैन पुट दैट. शशांक इज ट्रू, जॉब क्रिएशन कर सकता है, प्राइवेट सेक्टर का कंट्रीब्यूशन बढ़ा सकता है, इंक्रीज कर सकता है जीडीपी में. बट शशांक, अ सिंपल क्वेश्चन टू यू फ्रॉम माय साइड, क्या ये चीज़ें मैं बायोटेक्नोलॉजी लेके आ जाऊं, ये सवाल मैं बायोटेक्नोलॉजी लेके सोशियो इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट डाल दूं, तो क्या आपके पॉइंट्स फिर भी रेलेवेंट नहीं है? तो आपके जो पॉइंट्स है वहां पे भी फिट हो रहे हैं. तो ऐसे पॉइंट्स को बोलते हैं जेनरिक पॉइंट्स, कि जॉब क्रिएशन तो करेगा ही करेगा, प्राइवेट इन्वेस्टमेंट को अट्रैक्ट करेगा ही करेगा, जीडीपी तो इंक्रीज होगी ही. तो ये तो हर चीज जो आप कर रहे हो, हर इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी जो आप कर रहे हो, उससे ये चीजें होनी है. तो ये पॉइंट्स आपके प्राइम पॉइंट्स नहीं होने चाहिए.
Sir, there was one initiative also for industrial land bank, something like that.
ओके
जिसमें वो IILB I think was the short form. I'm not able to.
ओके या ओके. इज देयर अ नेटवर्क इशू बिकॉज इट्स शोइंग लो नेटवर्क बैंडविड्थ? अभी वीडियो सही चल रहा
Yes, sir.
है? ओके ओके. सो सो यस. और क्या है, सोचिए सोचिए. आई वांट यू टू थिंक, because once you develop the framework, all questions in GS you will see that they are so patterned, you can easily score very well. Inco spar led development of Thumba village, yeah, that would be a very good example. Rural connectivity, good point.
Sir, अभी जैसे निसार वाला था,
हाँ.
so that was like वो ना regularly वहाँ पे वो आइडेंटिफाई करेगा कि डिजास्टर प्रोन एरियाज, लाइक वो सिमिलर, तो वो वाला भी यूज कर सकते हैं point.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. तो डेवलपमेंट और डिजास्टर का लिंकेज है, बिकॉज डिजास्टर वुड वॉश अवे द डेवलपमेंट. सो यू वुड ऑलवेज लुक फॉर वेज विच कैन हेल्प यू टू मिटिगेट डिजास्टर्स. or give early warning for disaster. So that could also be a good point. So Nisar can be a good point. Helps in spatial planning. Yes, Saurav, good point. Border management, हाँ, Shashank. So, Shashank, see the way you're thinking, it appears that you buy the most prominent ideas which are there, which is circulating nowadays. You have to think for yourself. You have to think from the ground itself. बॉर्डर मैनेजमेंट यस गवर्नमेंट के लिए बड़ा कंसर्न हो सकता है, बट आप एक एस्पिरेंट हो, आपको और रूड और बेसिक चीज़ों पे फोकस करना है. और क्या एलिमेंट्री प्रॉब्लम्स है कंट्री की. Border is always there. Securitization, this is what is known as securitization of ideas and personalities, that we tend to focus on those things which are portrayed to us. Just to point out, more CRPF personals get killed in Naxal attack than army people dying in borders. But we do not highlight that. तो आप जब एस्पिरेंट हो, आप जब आंसर्स लिख रहे हो, तो आपसे एक्सपेक्टेड है कि आप ब्रूट रियलिटी ऑफ द कंट्री को जानो और वो पॉइंट्स के बारे में भी लिखो, बट सिनिकल भी नहीं होना है. मतलब लेफ्टिस्ट आइडियोलॉजी की प्रॉब्लम यही है कि वो एक्सट्रीमली सिनिकल होते हैं. दे आर राइट इन पॉइंटिंग आउट द issues in the country, but they do not have solutions. They would only point out problems only. But you have to do otherwise. You have to be leftist and rightist at the same time. You have to point out the problems with a great force. But you have to have solution also, not just giving the problems, because you're not just an informed person, you are going to be involved person. And if you're going to be involved person, you just cannot crib about things. You can say that yes, spade is spade, but you will say that yes, something still can be done. That should be your objective. That should be a philosophy in all your answers. That चीजें खराब हैं और खराब हो सकती हैं, पर we will go and we will bring some change, or things can become better. That is what you should be going for. That is what your temperament should be. So so let's sum this up. What we can do here, when you say development, first of all, have a broad understanding of development itself. The keyword development should be thought upon by you. तो आप बैठ के सोचो कि डेवलपमेंट क्या होता है. आपने ऐसे कीवर्ड्स पे डेमोक्रेसी क्या होती है, डेवलपमेंट आपके लिए क्या है, तो आपको ये चीज़ें एनालाइज करनी है. डेवलपमेंट किसको चाहिए, जिसको नहीं मिली है ना. आप तो और मैं तो शहर में बैठे हैं, मैं गुड़गांव में हूँ, आप अपने शहर में हो या दिल्ली में अच्छी जगह पे हो, बट यू हैव टू थिंक फ्रॉम द perspective those who have not received development. One of the major section is obviously the farmers, agriculture sector. They are the most vulnerable section. India is still an agrarian economy, and we are not able to provide them with the kind of facilities and advancements that they deserve. That is why you see farm distress. That is why you see farm protests. Can ISRO do something, or has ISRO done something to uplift the agriculture sector itself? तो आपका प्राइम हिटिंग स्पॉट डेवलपमेंट लाना है, तो कंट्री 60% 70% एग्रीगेरियन है, तो आप फोकस कहाँ करोगे? पहले पहले आप बॉर्डर पे फोकस करोगे या एग्रीकल्चर पे फोकस करोगे? पहले आप रूरल डेवलपमेंट पे फोकस करोगे या जो 11% पॉपुलेशन जो अर्बन एरियाज में रह रहे हैं उस पे फोकस करोगे? डेवलपमेंट का मतलब, so development has been defined differently. If you read Amartya Sen, according to Amartya Sen, development is development of capacity. He will say, do not give fish to people, teach fishing. इसका मतलब टीच फिशिंग का मतलब हुआ आप स्किल डेवलपमेंट कराना चाह रहे हो, उसको स्किल्स देना चाह रहे हो. केपेबिलिटी अप्रोच, यस राइटली पॉइंटेड आउट आलोक. केपेबिलिटी डेवलप करो ताकि वो उसको फिश की जरूरत ना पड़े, वो फिशिंग करके खुद फिश पकड़ ले. सो इट मीन्स, but you'll have to create that condition to teach them fishing. So you'll have to develop their health, you'll have to develop their skill, or basic education first, then their skill level first, then you'll have to take care of their health also, you will have to take care of their connectivity. also, that so that they can reach to urban areas and rural areas. They should not be debarred from accessing internet. डिजिटल डिवाइड को आप दूर करो। ये चीजें आप करोगे तो एक इंडिविजुअल को आप केपेबल बना सकते हो। तो आप जब ब्रॉड अप्रोच लेके चलोगे ना कि डेवलपमेंट का मतलब आपके लिए क्या है, कि हाँ मुझे फार्मर्स को डेवलप करना है, हाँ मुझे लोगों की कैपेबिलिटीज को डेवलप करना है, हाँ डिजास्टर से डेवलपमेंट खराब हो जाता है उसको मुझे टैकल करना है, इन्वायरमेंट अभी डिस्ट्रॉय हो रहा है, वी आर सीइंग क्लाइमेट चेंज, मैं उसको प्रोटेक्ट कर लूँ तो डेवलपमेंट हो जाएगा। डिजीजेस इसलिए आ रहे हैं, वाई वी आर सीइंग मंकी पॉक्स एंड दिस mentioned biotechnology classes also, that we have caused COVID for ourselves, because we are the ones who have ingressed into environment, into forest, into animal zones. So jumping of diseases from animals to humans have become a common phenomena. This I guess I had mentioned in QIP and prelims also. So in what was COVID, you can see similar thing happening in case of mpox also. तो क्या ये चीज़ें कर सकते हैं? क्या इसरो उस चीज़ में हेल्प कर सकता है कि हम इनग्रेस ना करें, डाइग्रेस ना करें, उनका हैबिटेट फ्रैगमेंटेशन ना करें? तो आपको वो अप्रोचेस लेके चलने, उसके बाद एग्जाम्पल्स आने चाहिए। आप एग्रीकल्चर मेंशन कर रहे हो, आलोक आपने QIP प्रीलिम्स नहीं लिया था। हाँ बट ठीक है, मैं बस रेफर कर रहा हूँ, उसका बहुत लिंकेज नहीं है यहाँ पे, दैट वाज जस्ट टू रेफर। हाँ मैनेजमेंट ऑफ, तो ये मैनेजमेंट ऑफ वाटर रिसोर्सेज आप एग्रीकल्चर में भी लिख सकते हो, क्योंकि एग्रीकल्चर का वन ऑफ द बिगेस्ट कंसर्न इज वाटर रिसोर्सेज, दैट स्टिल 60% ओनली इज इरिगेटेड, ऑफ आवर लैंड्स इज इरिगेटेड, 40% इज रेन फेड। तो क्रॉप एस्टिमेशन करना, नाउ आई एम गेटिंग इनटू लेट्स से फाइनर पॉइंट, बट आप ब्रॉड समझ पाए कि क्या थीम्स आपको, क्या प्रायोरिटाइज होना चाहिए आपके हिसाब से। मनरेगा भी एग्रीकल्चर में आ सकता है, तो आप एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर, रूरल सेक्टर, फिर उसके बाद कैपेबिलिटी डेवलप करने के लिए लोगों की हेल्थ, उनकी एजुकेशन, उनके स्किल्स और डिजिटल डिवाइड, इन सब इश्यूज को आप टैकल करो तो आप डेवलपमेंट ला सकते हो। डिजास्टर्स को आप टैकल करो तो आप डेवलपमेंट को, जो डेवलपमेंट लॉस हो रहा है उसको रोक सकते हो। सो दीज आर 4-5 ब्रॉड थीम्स, एंड देन यू हैव टू राइट फाइनर सब पॉइंट्स इन दोस. So when the examiner will read, at least he will think that he is thinking from ground level up. तो आपका हमेशा अप्रोच बॉटम्स अप अप्रोच होना चाहिए। वो टॉप डाउन अप्रोच की हम बाहर से इन्वेस्टमेंट आ जाएगा, हाँ इंडस्ट्रीज और ग्रो हो जाएंगी, बॉर्डर और सेफ हो जाएंगी, ये टॉप डाउन अप्रोच साउंड होते हैं। वो भी लिखना है, ऐसा नहीं कि इसको इग्नोर करना है, बट दैट शुड नॉट बी योर प्रायोरिटी पॉइंट्स, योर दैट शुड बी, व्हेन you are falling short of points, then you can always say that these activities will generate employment, they will generate good employment, they will be high paying jobs, because ये upskilled jobs होंगे, so that will increase the GDP. So those things you can mention. Coming narrowly down to some specific points, let's say एग्रीकल्चर में कहाँ कहाँ हेल्प कर सकता है, तो एग्रीकल्चर में भी आपके कंपस में बहुत सारे पॉइंट्स मेंशन किए हुए हैं, आप उसमें से 3-4 पॉइंट्स उठा सकते हो, बट यू कैन थिंक ऑफ दैट व्हाट कैन बी डन इन एग्रीकल्चर बाय इसरो और बाय स्पेस। दैट इज क्रॉप एस्टिमेशन तो कर सकते हैं, क्रॉप ईल्ड का एस्टिमेशन कर सकते हैं, क्रॉप जब डैमेज हो रहा होगा, सो can we not take photographs of the crop damage, and can we not pass it on to insurance companies, so insurance companies without going for delayed process can recompensate or compensate the farmers that we are doing in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. No, so we can manage water resources, we can go for mapping, someone pointed out we can go for digitization of land records, we are following, we have started the स्वामित्व scheme, जिसमें ड्रोन्स के यूज से और कोऑर्डिनेट्स, स्पेस कोऑर्डिनेट्स को यूज करके लैंड टाइटलिंग दिया जाएगा, तो ये सारे जो लैंड डिस्प्यूट्स हैं वो कम होंगे, लैंड टाइटलिंग इश्यूज प्रॉपर होंगे, तो फार्मर्स को लोन लेना आसान होगा। तो बहुत सारे पॉइंट्स और निकल सकते हैं, बट यू कैन पॉइंट सम पॉइंट्स आउट। वाटर रिसोर्सेज को आप बेटर मैनेज कर सकते हो, फैलो लैंड और वेस्ट लैंड कुड बी प्रॉपरली मार्क्ड आउट, विच कुड बी फर्दर यूज्ड, फॉरेस्ट्स को भी आप मार्क आउट कर सकते हो, so forest areas could be marked out in such a way, so you can use uh, this space in agriculture in so many ways. Done till here. अब आ जाते हैं लेट्स से कैपेबिलिटी अप्रोच, यदि देख लें कि नॉर्मल लोगों के लिए या जो रूरल लोग हैं उनका कैपेबिलिटी कैसे इंक्रीज कर सकते हैं, उनके लिए क्या हम फ्री इंटरनेट या डिजिटल डिवाइड कम कर सकते हैं. इफ यू रिमेंबर वी हैड स्टार्टेड और इसरो स्टार्टेड एडुसैट, एक सैटेलाइट लॉन्च किया था फॉर एजुकेशन. And during COVID times it was quite helpful because not all people are having access to internet, but education was continued because of edusat. और ये सैटकॉम भी था एक. तो ऐसे ऐसे एग्जांपल्स आप पॉइंट आउट कर सकते हो. ठीक है. तो डिजिटल डिवाइड के विलेजेस को कनेक्ट करने के लिए भी नेटवर्क्स हैं. तो टू प्रोवाइड स्पेस कनेक्टिविटी ऑल्सो, टेलीकम्युनिकेशंस वाले प्रोग्राम भी हैं. तो ये आप मेंशन कर सकते हो एजुकेशन में. हेल्थ में आप मेंशन कर सकते हो टेलीमेडिसिन, दैट इज नाउ डेज यू वुड हैव सीन डॉक्टर्स ऑन कॉल, संजीवनी पोर्टल. All of this was doing what telemedicine, that even people in rural areas can get access to doctors sitting in urban areas or in multi-speciality hospitals. So that is improving the health infrastructure in some ways. So it is improving the health. Then you can mention about skilling also of the people, so people could upskill themselves. So because of these missions that are being sent, there is a motivation. It is encouraging the youth to participate in science, technology, engineering and mathematics in STEM field. So even women have started participating in STEM field, so they will upskill themselves. So you can mention those things. Then you can point out, let's say in rural areas, rural mapping. In urban areas, not so developed areas, e-governance also you can point out. So in urban sprawls, so mapping of urban sprawls, और वहाँ जो कंजेशन है या और जो social issues arise हो रहे हैं, those could be tackled by using this. Then in disasters, you can mention about the different satellites that we have to tackle or to observe disasters, what we can do before disasters, what we can do during disaster, what we can do after disaster. So before disaster, we have developed early warning systems for so many types of disasters. So during disasters, we can get real-time information. So after disasters, we can build back better again using satellite imagery and by using the knowledge of the disaster area, or we can go for what we call as zonation maps और vulnerability map बनाते हैं. वो भी vulnerability map भी बनता है ये सारी चीज़ें parameters space based recognition करके. So you can use that. Then in environment, you can mention that forest. So you can mention about conservation efforts, and you can then bring out some examples there, how we can check of ecological fragmentation of some of the species, how we can check extinction of the species also. Those points also you can bring out. So in this way, you can prioritize, and you can obviously mention that all of this would attract a lot of investment and bring in better talent pool in India. We might be able to even create an ecosystem where the best of the minds remain in India only, and they not do not drain out of India. So when they become entrepreneurs, they will bring further development in India. So in this way, लाइवलीहुड फिशिंग जोन्स, हाँ, तो वो जो सैटेलाइट्स के एडवांटेजेस हैं वो आप मेंशन कर सकते हो. बट यहाँ पे भी अब आपको ये ध्यान रखना है कि स्पेस एलोकेशन इज आल्सो important. So that is why there would be obviously so many points that you could write, but prioritizing them is also very, very important in UPSC, because priority gives the impression that whether you are a well-read person, well-thought person, well-practiced person. You cannot prioritize the points if you are doing it for the first time in examination hall. तो आपने पहले से पढ़ रखा है, सोच रखा है, तो ही आप प्रायोरिटाइज कर पाओगे, नहीं तो नहीं कर पाओगे. फिर रैंडम पॉइंट्स आएंगे जो रैंडमली आप लिख दोगे, तो आपको लगेगा कि मैंने लिख तो दिया 7 पॉइंट 8 पॉइंट, बट मार्क्स उसको बेटर मिलेगा जिसने प्रायोरिटाइज करके लिखा है. तो यही हाफ नंबर और आधे 1 नंबर का ही गेम है इन मेंस. आई हैव लेफ्ट दिस पोर्शन ब्लैंक आफ्टर कंट्रीब्यूशन. Do you think we should be writing something else also here, or should we end our answer here? We have addressed the two parts of the question, that is achievements we have addressed, and then we have seen contribution also. What could be next? What should be the next subheading in your answer?
Sir, initiatives or
Initiatives.
and the
Yeah.
way forward.
Okay, so what Jaya is pointing out, यहाँ से यहाँ मैं आपका आंसर पढ़ूं तो बस ऐसा लग रहा तारीफ ही तारीफ किए जा रहे हैं। आपने यहाँ अचीवमेंट्स बता दिया, ये भी बता दिया कि सोशियो इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट करे जा रहा है, तो इतना अच्छा है स्पेस सेक्टर क्या? या इतना बढ़िया अचीवमेंट्स हैं क्या? उसमें कोई चैलेंजेस या लिमिटेशन नहीं है? एवरीथिंग कम्स विद अ पिंच ऑफ सॉल्ट। And ISRO is also facing some issues and challenges. Our entire space sector is facing some issues and challenges. So challenges का सब हेडिंग मेंशन करके कुछ चैलेंजेस आपको मेंशन करने चाहिए, बट ज़्यादा नहीं करने हैं क्योंकि पूछा नहीं है, बट डायमेंशन ऐड कर रहा है। और उसका एक और फायदा है कि कंक्लूजन में आप ऐसे चैलेंजेस उठाओ जिसको आप ओवरटर्न कर सकते हो। You want your conclusion to be solution oriented. You are not just from JNU. You know the solutions also. I have nothing against any institution. I am big fan of all institutions, particularly JNU, but do not buy only one side of the argument. That is my limited point. कि आपको सिर्फ प्रॉब्लम्स नहीं बताने हैं, प्रॉब्लम्स के साथ उसके सॉल्यूशंस भी बताने हैं। तो आप चैलेंजेस मेंशन कर रहे हो तो कंक्लूड मत करो यहाँ पे, क्योंकि आपका आंसर फिर नेगेटिव दिखेगा लास्ट में। तो आप चैलेंजेस मेंशन कर रहे हो तो कंक्लूजन आप रनिंग में ही लिख लो, रनिंग पैराग्राफ में, बट कुछ जो challenges mention करें उसको overturn कर दो आप, so that your answer would become holistic in the sense that you have pointed out the achievements and you are aware or wary about the issues which is plaguing our space sector, and you are still aware about how we can overcome these challenges. So a simple question can then become a well-rounded question if you have planned your answer well. That is why when you're writing answers, ये कीवर्ड का प्लानिंग आपके दिमाग में आंसर लिखने से पहले हो जाना चाहिए। तो ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि ये लिख लिया, अब ध्यान आ रहा है कि चैलेंजेस भी लिखना चाहिए था, तो बाद में ध्यान आ रहा है इसका मतलब आपने प्लानिंग नहीं करी है, तो वो आ नहीं पाएगा आंसर में। आपने आंसर शुरुआत करने से पहले ही डिसाइड कर लिया एक दो चैलेंजेस तो लिखने ही पड़ेंगे, तो ही आप स्पेस एलोकेशन करोगे। So that is why planning of the keywords or subheadings is very important before you write answers. Antithesis, funding. Yes, funding is a problem. Talent pool की भी बहुत बड़ी समस्या है. If you would have heard about or case even had given some interviews, and in that interview had pointed out IITians are not coming to ISRO. I guess I had pointed out this in QIP prelims also. तो talent pool की भी issue है कि अच्छे talent pool नहीं आ रहे, funding नहीं आ रहे, resources के issue है, private sector का participation कम है। तो आप ये problems लिखो और उसको overturn कर दो कि funding बढ़ाना है, private sector को attract करना है तो funding बढ़ जाएगा। skills आप मोटिवेट करो या कोर्सेज लेके आओ यूनिवर्सिटीज में, इंजीनियरिंग कॉलेजेस में, स्पेस को लेकर कोर्सेज ही नहीं है कहीं पे भी। at max aeronautical engineering से, aeronautical engineering is not same as space engineering. So आप कोर्सेज लेके आओ तभी तो यंग लोग उसको ज्वाइन करेंगे और फिर वहां से फिर यहाँ इसरो पहुंचेंगे। So you have to do those things. So if you know the problems, then you can overturn them and then you can write a better conclusion than writing a summary type of conclusion. Is that okay? Okay. So let's move to another question, and that question is still relevant for our exam because it is about manned mission. And manned mission, that is Gaganyaan mission, has to be sent. So you should know the whole context of this. You should know obstacles in manned missions. You should know benefits of manned mission. So that is a potential area of question making. So we'll look that through the question itself. Challenge contributes only, yes, you can mention Alok, yes, these factual things if you remember, you can mention contributes only 2% of world space export और space economy, 2 to 3% of global space economy. Solution सिर्फ NSIL से नहीं हो सकता, बट पूरा एक इकोसिस्टम क्रिएट करना पड़ेगा जहां प्राइवेट सेक्टर would feel very comfortable, and they can do some cutting edge research and take some sophisticated missions also. So NSIL can be one of the solution, or you can say that government has taken this step or brought out the national new space policy. So NSIL would be a part of the space policy. So that also you can mention in your conclusion. Done? Okay. So we'll see another question. This is little long in writing. India. I had discussed these questions in the classes that I'd taken. Anyone is from the foundation batch where I took science and tech? Saurav, you were not there. Saurav, you were in which batch? Okay, Ilma is there. I remember Ilma. So classes में करे थे, चलो फिर से revise कर ले. Omkar, you were there in one of our batches, no?
So, but for biotech, not for
Only.
science.
Okay, okay, but only for biotech. Okay, so let's see this question. India has achieved. Through this, we will try to see all the present happenings in unmanned. What are technological and logistical obstacles in sending manned mission? So यहाँ तक maybe वही sense है. Now, why I have took this question is because I want you to understand the way questions are framed by UPSC. The questions would not be straightforward. Let's say मंगलयान गगनयान न्यूज में है, पर वो आपसे ये नहीं पूछेंगे टेल द फीचर्स ऑफ गगनयान मिशन एंड व्हाट आर द एडवांटेजेस ऑफ गगनयान मिशन. They will not do this. You have to be aware of this. So they will always twist the question in a way so that they will check a particular part of your personality. If you closely read this question, it is saying India has achieved. What I am saying is something a little more than what this statement is saying. It is saying इसरो के बस का अनमैन्ड मिशन भेजना ही है, इसरो के बस का मैन्ड मिशन भेजना नहीं है. जो आसान मिशन है वो इसरो भेज ले रहा है, बट मैन्ड मिशन जो कि टफ मिशन है, कॉम्प्लेक्स मिशन है, इसरो नहीं भेज सकता या नहीं भेज पा रहा है. दैट इज द टोन ऑफ द क्वेश्चन. So you have to be then wary of this tone, and then you have to design your answer according to the demand of the question, and very subtly you have to address this tone also. Should you buy this tone that ISRO is not capable of sending manned mission? We cannot buy this statement. No, we are nationalist by core. तो हमें ये बाई नहीं करना है, या नेशनलिस्ट नहीं भी हो तो ये लॉजिकल नहीं है कि इसरो कुछ भी नहीं कर रहा होगा मैन्ड मिशन के लिए. तो ये वैसे ही हो गया कि मैंने क्लास में भी बताया था कि आपके पेरेंट्स बोल रहे दिल्ली तो तुम्हें भेज दिया, 1 साल भी हो गया, कोई रिजल्ट नहीं आ रहा तुम्हारा. तो ऐसा बोल सकते हैं पेरेंट्स, पर उनको बोलना नहीं चाहिए. पहले बात तो ये है. बट यूपीएससी सवाल पूछ रहा है तो पूछ लिया उन्होंने, पर आपको कैसे जवाब देना है कि हाँ पापा, हाँ मम्मी, दिल्ली में हूँ 1 साल से, क्लासेस करी हैं, फाउंडेशन कर लिया है, टेस्ट लिख लिया है, टेस्ट में स्कोर अच्छा कर रहा हूँ, और ज़्यादा दूर नहीं है कि मैं रिजल्ट भी ले आऊँगा। रिजल्ट नहीं आने का मतलब ये नहीं है कि कुछ नहीं करा है पीछे, ये वो स्टेटमेंट है। अभी तक मैंड मिशन नहीं भेज पाए, इसका मतलब इसरो हाथ पे हाथ रख के नहीं बैठी है। तो ये पार्ट को भी आपको एड्रेस करना पड़ेगा। इसलिए जब आप क्वेश्चंस पढ़ रहे हो तो आपके पास वो आई होना चाहिए कैच करने का कि इस क्वेश्चन का टोन क्या है। जैसे सास भी कभी बहू वाले सीरियल्स में हर कोई टोन पकड़ता है ना, आपको भी पकड़ना है यहाँ पे, तभी आप बहुत बैलेंस्ड आंसर्स लिख पाओगे। So you have to think from that perspective. So let's say what can be an introduction to this question. इंट्रो में क्या लिख सकते हैं? लेट्स से ये क्वेश्चन 5 साल पहले पूछा था, और अब ये सेम सवाल पूछ लिया, तो क्या आंसर भी 5 साल पहले और अभी सेम होना चाहिए? So where are the areas where you can create differences?
सर वो चंद्रयान 3 वाला सॉफ्ट लैंडिंग।
Yes, yes. So you can mention Chandrayaan 3 because those are recent advancements. You can mention Aditya L1 that we have sent. So we have gone to very far place to reach to L1 point. We have been able to do soft landing. So those things you can mention. Why this is it? With the example of Neil Armstrong. With example of Neil Armstrong, yes, we can do that. But अभी पहले पहला पार्ट में क्या लिखेंगे, इंट्रो में क्या लिखेंगे पहले? इंट्रो में आप इसी चीज को और एक्सटेंड कर सकते हो कि चंद्रयान मंगलयान तो भेजा ही था, बट उसके बाद और एडवांस्ड मिशंस भेजे। चंद्रयान एंड मंगलयान, इफ यू रिमेंबर, दे वर ऑर्बिटर टाइप ऑफ मिशन, they were into orbit of moon and Mars. But if you write Chandrayaan 3, it is not orbiter, but it is a step ahead. It is a orbiter, lander and rover type of mission. So we have gone a step ahead. So you can start from that context also, or you can mention that we have been able to go very far also to reach the L1 point where very few space agencies have reached. So you can use those context to again start your answer, or you can again go by classical way of mentioning about ISRO or Vikram Sarabhai. So that would be an intro. Now let's come to next part. Now what should be the next part in this question? The next part of the question, in very brief, you should be able to tell what is a manned mission, and if you can give certain examples. So you should mention a definition of manned mission. Just give me a second. Just give me a minute, so I'll be back. Okay, so sorry for the inconvenience. So my sister was supposed to come today, but at last moment she was not able to come. So she had sent her Rakhi, which has just come now. So I had to take it. Okay, so we are discussing about this particular question. So the theme of the question is about manned mission, that India has not ventured into manned mission. So you should be able to define a manned mission. How can you define a manned mission? अब यूपीएससी ये सवाल पूछेगी तो ये टर्म मैंड मिशन तो नहीं लिखेगी, बिकॉज दे विल बी राइटिंग ह्यूमन मिशंस, बिकॉज फेमिनिस्ट कुड टेक ऑफेंस ऑफ दिस. So these corrections would be there. How can you define a human mission? What is a human mission in simple language? How do you think a human mission is different from even Chandrayaan 3? One critical component would be that we would send humans in space. They would stay there in space for some time, and then we'll have to bring them back safely also. That is the biggest challenge then it presents. So even Chandrayaan missions or Mangalyaan missions, we are sending mission which does not need to come back to Earth. So when you're writing manned mission, you have to define, simply you have to write that humans are sent into space. They can even land on celestial bodies, and then they have to be brought back safely to Earth. That is as simple as that. That is a manned mission or a human mission. First manned mission was Yuri Gagarin's mission. Yuri Gagarin was the first man in space. First human landing was Apollo 11. So you can mention those, or you can mention the present context that we are planning to have the India's first manned mission, indigenous manned mission. Otherwise, Indian astronaut Rakesh Sharma, सॉरी रशिया का मिशन यूज करके उसमें गए भी हैं स्पेस में. सो यू कैन मेंशन वन और टू एग्जांपल्स हियर. Then you have to mention the technological and logistical obstacles. So here you have to mention obstacles, and the technological and logistical. So this is also relevant even now, because India has to send a manned mission, and this is what we are seeing, what Sunita Williams is facing, Williams and Wilmore, they are facing. So this particular theme, that obstacles in a human mission, is still very very relevant. So we should know the obstacles also. And since the question has categorically pointed out what are the technological obstacles and logistical obstacles, you can mention those, but you can also mention some other obstacles also, because in any human mission or in any mission, there would not only be technological and logistical obstacles, but there would be other obstacles also. So after mentioning this, you can mention other obstacles also. But after writing obstacle, what should we be writing here? आफ्टर ऑब्स्टिकल्स, तो ये पूछा था ऑब्स्टिकल्स क्या है, वो आपने मेंशन कर दिया. उसके बाद क्या करना है?
So what
So
will
then
what
the upcoming manned missions of India, like Gaganyaan.
Okay.
sir, collaboration with other agencies also, like we are being part of Artemis mission now.
Okay. Yeah. So what is the subheading that we have to write first? सबहेडिंग क्या लिखना है यहाँ पे, या आंसर हो गया यहाँ पे? Still, till now, you haven't addressed this subtle part that ISRO is not capable of sending human missions. So what you have to write here, that what are the steps already taken by ISRO for human mission? मतलब कुछ एक्सपेरिमेंट्स करे हैं ना, कुछ मॉड्यूल्स डेवलप करे हैं ना, कुछ सिस्टम सब सिस्टम्स डेवलप करे हैं ह्यूमन मिशंस के लिए, तो वो 2-4 एग्जांपल्स आपको मेंशन करने हैं यहाँ पे. इन दैट वे you are countering that yes there are obstacles, yes these type of missions are very difficult, but ISRO is doing something about this, and we will be able to send human mission very in a short amount of time. So then you're countering this narrative. Here you are saying manned mission ये challenges इसलिए हम नहीं भेज पा रहे. Yes. So here you have to write steps taken by ISRO for manned mission. We'll look at the points, but I just want you to first draw the framework that you need to address in such questions. तो जब आप ये लिखते हो तो ये बताते हो कि नहीं, मैं दिल्ली में हूँ, मैं पढ़ रहा हूँ, मैंने टेस्ट लिखे हैं और रिजल्ट भी आएगा. That is what you are saying by this particular theme or this particular subheading. Then you can write some conclusion here, and nowhere in this question has the name Gaganyaan been used. So you could have reserved that for using it in the conclusion, that India has already planned the Gaganyaan mission. We have already selected the astronauts, those who are going to go there. They are undergoing training. So these things you could mention also in your conclusion part. Or some of the examples you can overturn.
सर वो व्योम मित्र भी बनाया है इसके लिए.
हाँ, व्योम मित्रा भी बनाया है, तो आप वो भी मेंशन कर सकते हो. व्योम मित्रा तो गगनयान मिशन का ही पार्ट है. इंडिया स्टेप्स फॉर ओवरकमिंग ऑब्स्टिकल्स. यस, दैट Saurav, so your statement could also be used as the subheading here also. So you can design the subheading in your own way. Now coming to this part, obstacles part. Can you point out the obstacles in human mission? Obstacles in human missions. And you have to remember this also, that we are a generalist. We are not specialist to give very finer nuances, but broader principle based nuances we can still point out. So if we have to send human mission, we have to go beyond the Karman line. Let's say this is Earth. So one mission could be we go here, we reach here, we orbit, and then we can enter back Earth, or it could involve landing also. So we would launch from here, get on the surface, and then launch back to again come back also. This is just to indicate you that what could be the potential challenges while we are sending human missions. So what are the challenges that you can think of?
Sir, the last point could be returning, like making a returning vessel is a difficulty.
Yeah. तो पहले जाने से सोचते हैं,
हाँ सर, वो मैंने लास्ट पॉइंट इसीलिए बोला.
पहले पहुंचते हैं स्पेस में, फिर वापस आने का challenges देखेंगे. So if we have to go to space, what are the challenges that we'll be facing? Those things you need to point out. So what are the challenges that we'll be facing?
सर दैट चेम्बर कंसिस्टिंग ऑफ ऑक्सीजन एंड ऑल दैट, बट उसको लिखेंगे कैसे मालूम नहीं है.
Okay. You think of the points first, then we'll see that what we can do. Undue stress on the body. Yes, fair point, Hilma. Jay is saying side effect of microgravity, escape velocity, Earth-like condition in spacecraft. Very true. So you have to create Earth-like conditions in spacecraft because humans can live in a very narrow environment. We need an ambient pressure, we need ambient temperature, we need oxygen, we need food, we produce waste that has to be processed. So creating such conditions would require you to install equipments. If you install equipments for making oxygen, for maintaining temperature and pressure, don't you think the weight of the spacecraft will increase? So weight itself will become a fundamental challenge then. And you have to move out of Earth, and you have to go at a velocity more than escape velocity of Earth. It means you have to move in an accelerating medium. When you move in an accelerating medium, then you start experiencing more force on your body. This you would have seen for pilots also. They start experiencing 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, more gravitational force. So they would bear too much of stresses. So the launch vehicle जो GSLV हम यूज करेंगे, GSLV का नाम चेंज करके LMV-3 कर दिया गया है, उसको भी ह्यूमन सूटेबल लॉन्च व्हीकल बनाना पड़ेगा to carry humans. Then, okay, radiation in space would be a concern. When we are moving out in space, space debris will be a concern. Fuel capacity would be a concern. Good point. Recent module design simulations for training facilities nahi hai India mein. That is a concern. Soft landing would then be a concern. G force accelerating medium would be a concern. Emergency aborting, that is a facility that we should be having, that in case of any malfunction of the equipment, at least we should be able to save the life of the astronauts. So emergency escape system should be there. Emergency aborting system should be there. Docking, yeah, very important. Docking, this is a problem that was pointed out in case of Sunita Williams and Wilmore, that they were not able to dock properly with International Space Station. Docking simply means connecting two objects to two spacecrafts in space, and that is quite complex process also. And they faced issues in docking only, and because of docking issues, the return has been delayed. Docking then becomes a very challenging issue. If this is an International Space Station and you're going from Earth to connect here, so docking then becomes a concern. Docking would be a concern. Then soft landing would be a concern. Then radiation level in space would be very high. Returning back would also be a concern. When you're returning back, again space debris would be a problem. But when you're entering Earth's atmosphere, then the Earth's atmosphere would burn you out. So you need to have effective thermal protection system also. So you need to have effective thermal protection system. When we reach to moon, then we are hardly left with any fuel to land on surface of Earth. We have to land in water, or we have to splash down in ocean. So you might have been saved from fire here, but you might drown at the end. So you have to protect the astronauts from drowning also. So these are some obstacles or some challenges that we would face in human mission. So you can categorize them in technological and logistical also. One more challenge would be you need to have a global navigation system, क्योंकि जब आप वापस आ रहे होगे तो आप कहाँ लैंड करोगे उसको गाइड करने के लिए भी आपके पास ग्लोबल नेविगेशन सिस्टम होना चाहिए. इंडिया के पास रीजनल नेविगेशन सिस्टम है, तो हमें यूएस से हेल्प लेना पड़ता है, बट इन फ्यूचर वी वुड नीड टू हैव अ ग्लोबल नेविगेशन सिस्टम also. Logistics, cost, food, complex system for continuous health monitoring. Yes. So now we did not focus on the health part. So health part, as I had pointed out at the start of the class itself, what Sunita Williams is facing, all astronauts would be facing. That is, they are more exposed to radiation, so which causes a radiation sickness, which leads to too much of vomiting, loss of food and appetite, loss of appetite, anorexia that could happen. Then there would be muscle loss because of space microgravity. There would be bone density loss because of this. There would be fluid disbalance. Fluid tends to get accumulated in the face, so those health related issues would happen. So it could disturb circadian rhythm, so sleep cycles are also disturbed. So many health related issues are going to happen that has to be monitored continuously. So then prolonged space stays can become very challenging in space. So these are some challenges that you can point out. अब आपको सारे नहीं लिखने हैं, बट आपको चेरी पिक करना है जो आपको लगता है सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट है, वो आप सबसे पहले लिख सकते हो, और फिर उसको कैटेगराइज भी कर सकते हो. टेक्नोलॉजिकल क्या है, लॉजिस्टिकल क्या है. बट चैलेंजेस इतने ही नहीं होंगे, कॉस्ट भी चैलेंज है, क्योंकि these are very sophisticated projects, so a lot of funding would be required, and funding would be one of the challenges, but attracting talent, all those then other concerns of human mission would still be there. So those things you can point out. A space station also needed. स्पेस स्टेशन होना चाहिए डॉकिंग करने के लिए, नहीं पर बिना स्पेस स्टेशन हुए भी मून पे तो लैंड कर सकते हैं. Communication can be a challenge, yes. So why we landed on this side of the moon and not on this side of the moon, that is the far side of the moon, because we cannot communicate from here directly to earth. I guess we had discussed these things in QIP prelims also. तो far side पे भेजने के लिए आपको फिर एक रिले सैटेलाइट भेजना पड़ेगा मून और अर्थ के L2 पॉइंट पे. मून और अर्थ के L2 पॉइंट पे रिले सैटेलाइट भेजेंगे, जिसका डायरेक्ट व्यू यहाँ पे भी होगा और डायरेक्ट व्यू अर्थ पे भी होगा. Then it is possible. So telecommunication can become difficult if we are trying to land on those unreachable parts also. So those can also be a problem that you can point out. So these are some of the obstacles that you can mention. Now, what can you write here? Steps taken by ISRO for manned mission. क्या क्या स्टेप्स लिए हैं मैन मिशन के लिए इसरो ने? वन ओमकार में. हाँ.
So training astronauts in Russia.
ट्रेनिंग एस्ट्रोनॉट्स इन रशिया, व्योम मित्रा भेजेंगे, यस. और क्या कर रहे हैं हम लोगों ने? क्या एस्केप सिस्टम डेवलप कर लिया है? crew escape system. Yes, we have developed crew escape system. Have we developed abort capabilities? Yes, we have developed pad or abort capabilities. So Gaganyaan in broadly you can mention. Then we have developed subsystems to support life. मतलब लाइफ को सपोर्ट करने के लिए प्रेशर, टेम्परेचर, ये सारी जो एम्बिएंट चीज़ें चाहिए, उसका भी सब सिस्टम हम लोगों ने डेवलप कर लिया है. सो वी हैव डेवलप्ड दोज. वी हैव डेवलप्ड इफेक्टिव फ्लोटेशन सिस्टम, so we will be able to float also. So those things we have already developed. So you can mention these steps. SACC, all those things you can mention that these can be developed. So you can look into it. So these are some steps which have been taken by ISRO. And you can mention in conclusion that ISRO has already planned Gaganyaan mission, and in Gaganyaan mission we are going to send 3 astronauts. There will be 3 flights in Gaganyaan mission, and in first flight will be trial flight, second flight will be sending a robot to evaluate what would be the stresses that humans will experience in space by this Vyom Mitra, and third will be the actual flight. And we are collaborating with others, so those things you can mention. So it means that you began with pointing out that yes, there are lots of obstacles. You have mentioned the uh, definition, you have mentioned the obstacles, but you have also mentioned that ISRO has already done something about this, and we are very near to have an indigenous program of human mission. So in this way you can then conclude your answer. सर इन ऑब्स्टिकल्स कैन बी, ऑब्स्टिकल्स में ट्रेनिंग फैसिलिटी टेक्नोलॉजिकल में लिख सकते हैं, बट वो टेक्नोलॉजिकल से बेटर होगा कि आप एक अलग सबहेडिंग बना लो, अदर ऑब्स्टिकल्स, एंड यू कैन मेंशन कॉस्ट एंड ट्रेनिंग देयर. हाँ, सो यू कैन मेंशन. Okay, so just taking this question as the context, can you tell advantages of manned mission? यह यूपीएससी ने नहीं पूछा है, जब वो पूछ सकती है कि गगनयान मिशन भेज रहे हैं तो उसके एडवांटेजेस क्या हो सकते हैं. अगेन क्वेश्चन ट्विस्टेड फॉर्म में आ सकता है, बट आपको मैन्ड मिशन या ह्यूमन मिशन के एडवांटेजेस पता होने चाहिए. सो कैन यू पॉइंट आउट देन एडवांटेजेस ऑफ ह्यूमन मिशन? These points are given in your compass, so you can read from there. I want you that you should be able to understand and appreciate here, so those points can become easy for you. एडवांटेजेस क्या हो सकते हैं? स्पेस एक्सप्लोरेशन कर सकते हैं, इन सितु एक्सपेरिमेंट्स कर सकते हैं, स्पेस स्टेशन सेटअप कर सकते हैं. या वेरी गुड. और क्या हो सकता है एडवांटेजेस? ओके. अंडरस्टैंडिंग स्पेस बायोलॉजी, यस वेरी ट्रू.
सर वो वाटर रिसोर्सेज वाला फाइंड करने के लिए भी
वाटर रिसोर्सेज भी फाइंड कर सकते हैं स्पेस से, यस. और क्या कर सकते हैं? सी
सर तो
बेनिफिट.
बेटर
या गो अहेड.
सर हमने वो एक इनचेस्ट करके भेजा था जिसमें हम लोग ना मून को डिग करके उसके अंडर का समझने की कोशिश कर रहे थे. सो
तो इसको क्या बोलेंगे? इसको बोलते हैं प्लानिटरी केमिस्ट्री.
ओके.
So what Omkar mentioned that we can understand स्पेस बायोलॉजी की जगह एस्ट्रोबायोलॉजी बोलते हैं. ये सब टर्म्स आपको लिखने चाहिए. दैट वी इट विल हेल्प अस टू अंडरस्टैंड एस्ट्रोबायोलॉजी. तो हमें वहाँ की बायोलॉजी समझ आएगी. हम बैक्टीरियाज को ग्रो कराना चाह रहे हैं इंटरनेशनल स्पेस स्टेशन में, प्लांट्स को ग्रो कराना चाह रहे हैं. सो एज टू अंडरस्टैंड हाउ बायोलॉजी परफॉर्म्स और हाउ लिविंग ऑर्गेनिजम्स परफॉर्म इन स्पेस. We are digging into Mars, we are digging into asteroids, we are digging into moon. Why? To understand planetary chemistry. So you can mention those. Astronomy itself, that is how our space is. So we can understand those things also. We can find out minerals also, which could be beneficial in the long run. Okay, what else? Good points. Exploration work on space station, livable planet research, and livable planet research. Yes, we are looking for planets because अपना अर्थ तो अपना अर्थ का टाइम हो गया है या टाइम आ गया है. तो किसी और का टाइम आएगा या नहीं आएगा. अर्थ का टाइम आ गया है तो दूसरा प्लेनेट ढूंढ रहे हैं. Origin, critical water sources in craters, boost investment, land on moon. Yes, very true. Gateway of our own space station. Yes. Skilled jobs. Yes, a good point. Technology to apply on ground level, better communication technology for rural development. Yeah. Spin-off benefits भी आएंगे. Yes, true. See, all points are good points, fair points, but it could become randomized even in your paper. तो ये randomization को कम करने का तरीका यही होता है कि आप broader themes में लिख सकते हैं. Advantages इसमें पहले आप let's say technological advancements लिख लिया, technological लिख लिया, फिर economic advantages लिख लिए, socio political advantages लिख लिए. So in technology, you can mention all those things that you're mentioning, that we can have our own, it will be a gateway to have our own space station. To build a space station, एक स्पेस स्टेशन बिल्ड करने के लिए आपके पास मैन्ड मिशन कैपेबिलिटी होनी चाहिए. बिकॉज अ स्पेस स्टेशन इज अ वेरी लार्ज ऑब्जेक्ट, इट इज अ वेरी लार्ज सैटेलाइट which is constructed there. We send part by part, but it is joined by humans only. So in order to set up a space station, you need to have successful human mission. So it can then become a gateway to have our own space station. That is what our future aim for ISRO is. So we can have space station. Then if we have space station, then we can do so many experiments, microgravity experiments. We can do experiments on our body itself, or we can evaluate the impact of space on human body itself. So we can understand about human body diseases, especially bone related diseases. If we are able to send this, we would be able to understand biology, astrobiology, we would be able to understand planetary chemistry. All of those could be beneficial. We could set up let's say a space station, we could set up gateway in moon, which we can use for further space exploration, which could help us to understand our universe better, or help us to understand our origin and evolution better. So it could have those advantages. And if we are going for manned mission, then our launch vehicles will have to be made more powerful. जो GSLV है उसको भी और पावरफुल बनाना पड़ेगा, ह्यूमन specific banana padega, that is human rated LMV would have to be designed. So our our contribution will then increase, or will develop our capability. We could send more heavier satellites in space. We can send farther missions in space in future. So those capabilities will then increase. And then these points you can point out. मिनरल वाले ये वाले आप इधर इकोनॉमिक में भी मेंशन कर सकते हो. So economic benefit would be that it would boost industrial production in ancillary industries. So ISRO had pointed out, or ISRO chief had formerly pointed out, that it will boost productivity. 60% productivity will be boosted in ancillary industries if we send the Gaganyaan mission. Gaganyaan mission alone will generate 15,000 plus jobs. So it will generate jobs. We can get access to some minerals which we do not find on Earth readily. So we can get those minerals from space, and we can harness those also. That would be advantage. We could attract then those broader points that you can mention. We can attract investment. Space tourism, good point, would be possible. Space tourism is a growing sector. India's contribution in space sector is just 2 to 3%. India will be able to increase that percentage to a very large extent. No, so those would be the economic benefits. Socio-political benefits or social benefits, you can point out that we will be able to attract talent. It will inspire youth, so they will take STEM. Particularly women now are not coming into STEM fields, so they will be inspired to get into STEM fields. So those things will happen. It will boost the image of India. India will emerge as a global space power. And if you want to become a permanent member of UNSC, you have to portray such kind of power also. So being a space power would also be prerequisite. So those things you can then mention. So those would be the advantages. Space tourism के economic benefits आप mention कर सकते हो. Skill jobs, yes, you can mention those. Spin-off, yes. So in technological, you can also mention the spin-off technologies that could benefit other sectors of society, other sections of society. That could be true. Yeah. So these would be the advantages. So always try to put them in some broader context. क्योंकि आप रैंडम पॉइंट्स बहुत सारे याद नहीं रख पाओगे, बट टेक्नोलॉजिकल, इकोनॉमिक, सोशल, पॉलिटिकल, इन सब में याद रखोगे तो बहुत पॉइंट्स जनरेट कर लोगे. तो आपका एम हमेशा एग्जामिनेशन हॉल में ये होना चाहिए कि आपका माइंड काम करना चाहिए पॉइंट जनरेशन का. और पॉइंट जनरेशन रैंडमाइज्ड होता है हमारे ब्रेन में, तो उसका ट्रेन करना पड़ता है कि पहले से आपने अपनी तैयारी में ही अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऐसी बनाई है कि ये 3 थीम्स हैं, इन 3 थीम्स के अंदर 3 3 4 4 पॉइंट्स हैं, ये मैं लिख दूंगा तो 8 9 पॉइंट्स बन जाएंगे. So if you have thought in that manner, then it will be easy for you to generate point. And this is a skill set which you have, which will help you in generating points in even those topics which you have not seen before also. So if you start thinking in socio-political, economic angle or dimensions, you will be able to generate lots of points. So this is the way to go ahead in such type of questions also. Okay, so today we started a little late because I guess there was some link sharing issues, and class was not created, so there was some issue. So I'll have to stop the class for today because I have another class. So we'll take up at 1 p.m. tomorrow then. Done? Yeah, any other doubt that you have, you can ask.
सर ये कंपास किस तरह से यूज करना है, अगर आप बता सके तो.
देखो, कंपास का ऑब्जेक्टिव ये होना चाहिए आपका कि आप ब्रॉडली चीज़ें समझ चुके हो और आप ब्रॉडली थीम्स आइडेंटिफाई कर चुके हो कि ये 4 5 थीम्स बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है मेंस के लिए. तो उस बेसिस पे फिर आप ये डिसाइड करो कि कौन से टॉपिक आपको पढ़ने। उसमें भी कभी कभी डिटेलिंग ज़्यादा होती है, उतनी डिटेलिंग की ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ती है एग्जामिनेशन हॉल में। एग्जामिनेशन हॉल में आप जब आंसर्स लिखोगे तो आपको लगेगा कि कम भी पता होता, बट ब्रॉडर डायमेंशन में पता होता तो आप आंसर वेल राउंडेड आंसर कंस्ट्रक्ट कर सकते थे। तो आप ब्रॉड थीम अंडरस्टैंडिंग करो। और मेरे हिसाब से आपको सेल्फ इवैल्यूएशन करना चाहिए, टॉपिक पढ़ के आपको इस पर्सपेक्टिव से एनालाइज करना चाहिए कि यूपीएससी इस पे किस टाइप के क्वेश्चंस पूछ सकती है मेंस में। So then you would be able to force your mind to think of what would be relevant. Can UPSC ask something very, very factual? Can it do so? What type of questions can it ask? So you have to use it in that context. तो बहुत सिंपली डिजाइन करा हुआ है, एटलीस्ट फॉर स्पेस व्हाट आई हैव सीन टिल नाउ, that is designed quite simply only. So you can go through that, and through these classes that we are discussing, you can then uh, get a pinpointed आंसर राइटिंग स्किल। सो स्किल डेवलपमेंट आप कितना भी पढ़ लो, मैं आपको कितना भी बता दूं पॉइंट्स, बट जब तक आप खुद से आंसर्स नहीं लिख रहे हो इन सब चीज़ों के लिए, या टेस्ट सीरीज में आप आंसर्स नहीं लिख रहे हो, तो ये सारा नॉलेज धरा का धरा रह जाएगा। सो इट इज़ ऑल अ गेम ऑफ प्रैक्टिस। So whatever you're learning, so let's say you're reading just campus, you're not even attending classes, but you might not be able to bring those point out in the examination hall. So you have to think in such a way that how can I remember most things, most relevant things which I can bring out in examination hall. So you have to have that perspective. तो जो भी चीज़ें आप करो, क्लासेस करो या मैगजीन पढ़ो या ऑनलाइन आप आर्टिकल्स पढ़ रहे हो, तो वही चीज़ें पिक आउट करो जो आप रिवाइज कर सकते हो और जो आप याद रख सकते हो और जो एग्जाम के लिए रेलेवेंट है।
ओके सर।
ओके, हेलो। Spin off technology, Ankur, we say, for example, I'll just give you an example of a spin off technology. So, internet. Internet is a very broad example now that you can understand. Internet was developed not for people. Internet was a government project of US Army, because USA has more than 7 bases across the globe. So they wanted to connect all of them together so that they can share information. So internet was developed. It was a LAN type of a network to connect all the bases of US bases. But now the spin-off effect is that all the world is connected. E-commerce is possible. People are able to interact with themselves. Social media is possible because of this. Online classes is possible because of internet. So what is that? That is a spin-off effect. आप सैटेलाइट भेज रहे हो स्पेस में। सैटेलाइट जब आप स्पेस में भेज रहे हो तो आप सिर्फ सन को स्टडी नहीं कर रहे हो या सेलेस्टियल ऑब्जेक्ट्स को नहीं स्टडी कर रहे हो। सैटेलाइट आप अर्थ की तरफ भी डायरेक्ट कर सकते हो, अर्थ को भी स्टडी कर सकते हो। अर्थ को स्टडी करा तो आपने देखा कि यहाँ पे रिवर्स हैं, या ये ओशंस में इस एरिया में फिशेस ज़्यादा मिल रहे हैं, तो आप उसको यूज़ कर सकते हो। तो सैटेलाइट इनिशियली डिज़ाइन हुआ था अलग पर्पस के लिए, बट अब उसका पर्पस कुछ और भी मिल रहा है। So those would be called as the spin-off benefits.
सर कल भी स्पेस का टॉपिक करेंगे या
आज
कल?
कल स्पेस के कुछ टॉपिक्स कर लेंगे, जैसे प्राइवेट सेक्टर पार्टिसिपेशन या प्राइवेटाइजेशन ऑफ स्पेस, स्पेस डेब्री, ये डिस्कस कर लेंगे। और कुछ जो रेलेवेंट होगा वो करके फिर दूसरे टॉपिक्स पे चल लेंगे या दूसरे थीम्स पे, न्यूक्लियर या एनर्जी पे चल लेंगे।
ओके सर।
ओके, सी यू ऑल देन टुमारो। थैंक यू ऑल।